Cupra, as a standalone name, has been around since 2018, but since then it's been making go-faster versions of existing Seats. With the Formentor, it's the first Cupra that the brand has been involved with from the ground up. With 7 new electric and plug-in hybrid models in 2021 alone, the Cupra brand have plenty to offer Irish customers. In Ireland, there will be 4 Cupra retailers, with 2 in Dublin, 1 in Cork and another one in Limerick. Cupra's intention is to double the network and to enhance the brand's awareness throughout the country. It's brimmed with features, connectivity, media, sat-nav, etc. You get some touchscreen style buttons for the temperature and for the volume, but they're a little bit fiddly to use, as is the central infotainment system. But once you're up to speed, you do learn to work around it. On the move, it's a little less intuitive than just twisting a dial. You've also got start-stop, you've got a couple of driving modes, and you've got cruise control setups. The gear shift paddles, plastic texture could be improved, but they're just too short to use comfortably. That said, the general fit and finish is good and it's a comfortable place, as there's quite a surprising amount of space in the back and the driver's got a decent amount of leg and headroom too. This engine has a nice amount of pace and performance for 150 horsepower. The little 1.5 litre engine isn't going to set your hair on fire in the same way as the top of the range VZ 2 litre TSI 310 horsepower DSG 4-drive. There is, however, plenty of torque, which means that when you're merging onto a motorway or dual carriageway, even if you need to just overtake, you're safely going to do this with no problems whatsoever. The Formentor's a really smooth drive, but when you go over much rougher surfaces, you really do notice how well planted that suspension is. It's a very, very solid setup. So that's one thing to take in mind if your back doesn't appreciate that type of thing. But yeah, it's just it's a lovely solid drive. The new dash and everything like that is just really, really nice and easy to look at. But it's a little bit too much touchscreen, because basically if you want to adjust the temperature controls, the volume controls, for either side, they are touch sensitive panels, so you do get used to it, but I wouldn't like to be jumping into a hard car after a long flight into an unfamiliar car and having to change those temperature gauges, because you have to wait a minute for the entire system to start up before you're able to use the touch screens. Plus, the sync doesn't automatically set, so I have to set the sync every single time. Same as lane assist, same as stop start. I have to every single time. It doesn't save my preferences, my driver preferences. So that'll be something to look at. So you've got a good bit of driver information. It gives you feedback on your MPG, gives you feedback how much fuel you've got left, any issues within the car. Lots of screens, lots of menus. It is a little bit distracting. I'm only starting to get used to it now after a few days of driving it. Really lovely environment to spend time in, very reminiscent of an Audi environment actually. Then you do have the little nub of the Golf Mark 8, and that's no bad thing, it's very easy to use. The exterior of the Formentor is pretty different. It's part SUV, part hatchback, and it's definitely a car that gets noticed out in the road. Despite being a relatively high rating car and well proportioned, it definitely stands out against a standard crossover. Cupra has been given access to the latest technology from the wider Volkswagen group. On the inside, you've got an ultra-wide central screen, and it's similar to the one that you'll find in the Mark 8 Volkswagen Golf. The car rides relatively well, if a little stiff on the 19-inch alloys, and it manages to deal with broken surfaces quite well indeed. If you do want to push a little harder and enjoy the road you're on, then the Cupra can do that too. This 1.5 litre engine is powerful enough and generates speed at a decent pace. The steering is relatively light,
But it's not all that communicative. That's something we've come to expect from most modern cars. Changing the driving modes allows you to add some weight to the steering, but it doesn't increase the feel. The boot in the Formentor has a useful 420 litres of space, which can be extended by folding the rear seats flat. This is made easier with the added handy switches in the boot. It's also got a clever little ski hatch in the middle for putting skis or longer items through should you need to. Large wing mirrors give excellent side vision, but the rear screen is quite narrow and a little bit boxy as a result of the tapered roofline, and that really sharp rear section adds to the Cupra's appeal in terms of aesthetics. Despite the slightly increased ride height, the adjustment of the suspension means that you're not getting a lot of body roll in the corners. In fact, the Formentor is remarkably planted through the bends. Even at higher speeds, it could be easy to describe the Formentor as just another niche busting crossover, but to do so will be doing it a disservice. This is a car which manages to blend aesthetics and practicality brilliantly, and it looks epically cool. It's a slightly left field choice, but given the amount that it brings to the table, it's one that really is worth considering. The Formentor has a huge amount of presence combined with practicality in what is a very congested segment.